Fire at will. Yes.
I really enjoyed your use of music, and I like that the different characters had their own kind of music, and you wrote some of it.
Much of it, yeah. Louise and I, we collaborate, but it's usually, I mean, she works full time and I'm at home every day, so I would work on the main structure of everything, like on the bass, and then I'd show it to her and get her feedback, and then I would lay down the tracks, and the drums were all out of GarageBand. Like all the music was just done in GarageBand on my computer, so there's no magic there. It's really just patience and timing. But then she's a keyboard player, so she laid down most of the keyboards. There were a couple of pieces, like for example, the scene with Corky, the father on the porch. I felt so bad too, because she spent like 2 hours working on this piece, and it wasn't the right tone for the scene. And then she went to sleep, and I just sat there and worked out the piece of music for that scene. So, and she woke up the next morning and she was like, "What you need me for?" So we work in close collaboration, but her job is mostly to keep me in time, because sometimes like I'll just throw things in there and she's like, "Well, it's not on the beat, so we gotta move it over just a hair, and then it'll be on the beat and it'll sound better." It's like, that's why you're here. So.
And the chase scene was great.
Oh yeah, the chase scene was a lot of fun, and that was something that we shot all that in one day. Well, one day and then a little bit in the evening. We watched Point Break like 15 times prior to filming that, so we could kind of like that's what we were shooting for. Was we want to be as good as Point Break, because that's a killer chase scene. There are some other good chase scenes. Raising Arizona has a good one, and when I was editing it, I dropped in the Raising Arizona music to that scene, and it was hilarious, but it wasn't the direction we wanted to go. So the music there kind of developed out of, actually, there's a movie called To Live and Die in L.A.,
Yeah.
and the main theme from that, the Wang Chung, it's called City of Angels. You can check it out on YouTube. You listen to that, and then if you see the scene, you'll see the influence from that song in that scene. Another funny bit about temp music was when Calvin is tailing Carl, when we first meet Carl, the music there, the temp music I used was Beverly Hills Cop theme. And that's written in F major is the scale, and that's what this piece of music wound up being, was F major. So it's the same but different. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm glad you like the music. Yes.
What was the hardest scene to film?
The hardest scene to film, that probably the tailing scene, because it was just a lot of little things throughout the entire day. I hated that day. It was really like, we started like super early in the morning, and then we went to like 6 p.m. and it was just like 9 hours running around downtown Lincoln, just getting all these shots. And in the middle of the day, Landon, he was doing his last year of college, so he had to go, and we had to film around him. The chase scene was fun, so I don't necessarily think that was too hard. Probably the toughest scene, and the scene that we were not satisfied with once we were like done filming it, was the 5-finger fillet scene in the bar. We had 3 hours to do that. 3 hours to move in, set up, block it, shoot it, pack up, and get out. And the sun was setting on us, so it was. When we left, I was not really happy. But then I edited it, and I saw, okay, we just need some shots here, and I can fix this, and the music will help, and it came together nicely. I think it could be better, but it is what it is, and that's all there is. So. Yes.
Where was this shot?
It was shot entirely in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Oh.
How many weeks?
19 days. 19 days straight. We were actually filming a year ago. This week was our first week. So we started on Monday, and we just did like a test day. We made sure all the equipment worked and everything. And then the first stuff we did was Calvin playing the bass in his house. That was the first shot, the first night, that Monday. And then Tuesday, we think Tuesday we did all interior house stuff, him in the kitchen, getting the phone call and everything. And then Wednesday we went downtown. So anything with him in the suit was all done on Wednesday. And then Thursday we did all the stuff with the friend Vince, so all the bar stuff and the stuff at the house. And then Friday we did all the stuff with Carl, and then so on and so forth. So we went 19 days straight. The only thing that was not filmed in the Lincoln city limits was the eclipse at the very, very end. That was the actual solar eclipse from last summer. If you
Wow.
remember, it was Monday the 21st of August. We went just outside of Lincoln so we can get an extra like 30 seconds. We drove south like 20 minutes and we were able to get a few more seconds of the eclipse in case anything went wrong. Fortunately, it didn't. So, but we special ordered a 400 millimeter lens just to be able to capture the eclipse, and we wound up using it for the sunset and then the sunrise and then some shots of him walking. So it was a good investment. I recommend.
Very cool. I hope Calvin's eyesight is okay after that last shot of seeing the eclipse.
Yeah.
I have a question. I really love the motivation of the protagonist throughout the film, and how that motivation evolved as different facts and different things started coming into his world. And so my question was, how long did you work on the script before you decided that you were ready to start shooting?
I wrote the script in like 28 days with a revision, and we shot it.
28 days from beginning to
The idea was there and developing for a little while, but like I didn't start writing until like May 28th, and then I had a first draft on like June 26th, and then I did a little revision, and then we just went right into rehearsal, and then we filmed it, and then I edited it, and then in seeing the edit, the rough cut was like an hour and 53 minutes, so I took like 15 minutes out of the movie. But then we did 1 day of pickups right after Thanksgiving, and that's where we kind of reshot the ending and the beginning. That sunrise in the beginning was during that time, as well as the Calvin going and sitting and looking at the eclipse, which it only hurts your eyes in the process. Once it's full bore, you can look right at it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
That's very cool. Yeah, so that while you were shooting, did you do any rewriting while you were?
No.
So once you began, you were pretty much locked with the.
that was it, and there was no time for that, and we didn't storyboard anything. I did my shot list like the night before, because in some cases we didn't have the location secure.
Yeah.
There were a couple of scenes where we were going, and then, for example, the scene where they have coffee in the alley, they were supposed to have it in a coffee shop, and I went into the coffee shop and I got super depressed because the sound was terrible. It was just from the air conditioner and their freezers and refrigerators, and the dialogue would have been horrible. So I took my sound guy and we went and walked around the block, and we found this alley, and they were like, okay, we're going here, you're going to sit here, you're going to sit here, and this is how we're doing it. And then I talked to my director of photography, and these are the shots, and these are the angles, and these are the lenses, let's go. And we did it, and then we just moved on. So it was real running gun, guerrilla filmmaking at its finest. So
Was that Louise in the park?
that was Louise in the park with our son Clarence, and then the swing set is actually our associate producer. He's a 25-year-old man posing as a child, because I needed some movement back there, give it a little life. But yeah, that was Louise, and then Louise is also, she's the one who says, "Mr. Jacobs, they'll see you now." I stretched out her voice to bring it down an octave. And then she's also the mom on the answering machine. You've reached the Jacobs, and blah, 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 blah. That's Louise as well. So,
And she sang some songs
and
too.
she sang quite a few songs. The song in the credits is an actual song, but I didn't want to use the lyric version because I feel like the instrumental just kind of helps keep it a little timeless and consistent with the score. But the soundtrack, actually, thanks for reminding me, we're having a raffle to raise money for additional festival entry fees and additional promotional material. So tickets are $5, and you can win. The grand prize is a 27 by 40 theatrical one-sheet poster of the movie signed by the cast and crew. and you also get a digital copy of the score and the soundtrack, and then runner-ups will get copies of the score and soundtrack as well. Just email it right to you. So if you're interested, I'll be here all weekend, and you can talk to me later. Moving on. Yes.
So you wrote the script, and when you were done with the script, did anybody else have anything to do with it at all?
What do you mean, like input or feedback?
Before you started to shoot, did you have anybody look at it to revise it at all, or was it all you?
I wrote it, and then when we shot it, I mean, I had some people read it just for clarity and coherence to make sure that what I wanted to achieve was coming through on the page and there was nothing missing or characters weren't sounding too similar. Like, one thing I hate is when characters have the same voice and then it's like you can tell it's the same writer writing it. So I like to make sure like everybody has their own voice because it just makes them, and then the actor puts their spin on it and it's good. But I did have a couple of people, like when I was halfway through writing the script, I had some of the people who had already been cast take a look at it and just kind of give me their thoughts or, you know, share their enthusiasm so I have the motivation to press on. But for the most part, no, I mean, I wrote it and then I did a revision, and the revision really just consisted of adding 10 pages, which was all the Vince character. He wasn't in the first draft, so Calvin's friend who works in a bar, all those scenes were added in the revision because I felt like Calvin needed a little something more of his life in there, a little bit more of an anchor or a rock to lean on. So Vince was put in there to satisfy that. Yes.
How did you do the casting? Was it open, or was it just you knew the people from the school? Or
Eric Moyer, who plays Carl Screese, I had worked with on a previous short film that we did 2 summers ago called The House on Peach Avenue. So
okay.
I knew him, and I kind of had him in mind for Carl, so I went to his house one day and just talked to him, and I was like, I need you to scare me. And he wasn't doing it, but I knew he could do it. So I had confidence in him, and we spent a lot of time talking about his character and getting him up to that level. And it was really funny, too, because the director of photography was like, Moyer? Really? Because he's the nicest guy. He has 2 kids, and he's like a big Boy Scout. But I knew he had it in him, and he just has this like physique that's like, I don't want to get punched by this guy. So I knew he would be good, and we spent some time working on getting him there. And after we finished filming the scene, the fun gun scene in the car,
I thought that was a great scene.
the director of photography was like, he scares me. And it's like somebody he's known for like 15 years. So, but Calvin, Landon Beard, he was actually an employee of mine, and I kind of had him in mind as I was, that's fine, see ya, we already talked. I had him in mind just as I was like writing the character because he is a very clean-cut guy. You know, he's never experienced anything like this, but I knew that he could play the root of the character and like had all the nuts and bolts of the actual character. And then again, through rehearsals and just the material, he was able to grasp what we were talking about.
Did a good job.
Robin, I thought was going to be really difficult to cast, and then Landon was like, well, you know, my girlfriend, she goes to Stanford for acting, and she's pretty good if you wanted to, like, read with her. And she was awesome, and she was willing to do it. And
this was more word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Yeah, we did
Okay.
have open casting for Vince and for Todd Wilkinson, the interviewer. But even that character, that actor, that's my buddy Jeff that I worked with, and I knew I wanted Jeff to play that part because he has such a unique voice, and when you first meet the character, he's on the phone, so I wanted it to be like instantly like character. And Jeff, he was a little reluctant because he's not really an actor. He was also in The House on Peach Avenue. He was the creature, so I wanted to like pay him back by letting him actually have his face not wrapped up in makeup and everything. But and he was also a little reluctant because I told him I wanted him to grow a mustache. So the second we finished filming, came right off. And I think he looks badass. You know, he's got that Sam Elliott thing going on. It's not quite that push broomy, but it's good. Yes.
Robin. So I guess it wasn't surprising. She's very tragic. I guess it wasn't surprising that she dies. maybe not surprising that she tries to get rid of him, but it was surprising that he ends up in effect stabbing her with a knife. So like, what was your motivation when you're writing this? Like, are you trying to like avoid a happy ending, or what was?
No, I mean I'm kind of just playing by the rules a little bit with having a twist. So that's our twist, is he actually winds up killing her. And the original title of the movie was The Victim, because, and I wanted it to be kind of ambiguous like that, because at one point each of the three main characters is the victim of the other one, and so it was just kind of capitalizing on that. But in terms of like deciding to kill Robin, that was our twist. It was supposed to be surprising. Oh shit! And now he is in fact a killer, but it's through survival. So that's kind of a theme throughout it as well. That's why he pulls on 5, because he doesn't want to die. But Carl, in a sense, pushes him to that point, to becoming a killer. And after that point, throughout the whole movie, he calls him Killer. Like that's his name. That's who he's become. So it just kind of worked out that way. Did I answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess I saw the twist. Yeah.
Yes.
We weren't clear as to why that one character gave him the car keys at the end.
Right. So that character in the credits is the guy, because he just kind of shows up. But that was the character that he had the chase scene with. And so Calvin parks in front of his house, and when the guy comes and kicks the door, his bandage gets locked in the door, he drops his keys, and then the chase ensues. And so him returning the keys in the car is kind of like, all right, well, Carl's out of the picture, now I get to move up, so let's just let this lie. I don't feel like pushing this any further. That's why he asks him if he wants some more. But he's really just like, you know what, you took care of Carl, you handed me my ass, giving him a little bit of respect and just letting him go on his merry way. Because now,
a truce between them.
yeah, and now he has this kind of like darkness lingering over him anyways, and that's, ties in with the theme of the sunrise and the sunset and the eclipse, because now he's in darkness because he's committed
And we
murder,
had
but it's
said
all tied up.
So you cut off a monster's head and the monster pops up.
And he's the monster.
One more question for me is, when the bartender friend dropped off that bundle, I thought it was sort of half expected that he was going to find out that his bartender friend was in part of the ring,
Mm-hmm.
and that he was being dropped off the murder weapon or something, or the gun that didn't shoot bullets or whatever. One of those things. Is that what you were intending with that? Or
No.
leave it up in the air. What was that?
With at the very end.
Yes.
Yeah. So he gives him a K-bar knife. It's wrapped up, and that ties into the original ending, where Calvin got into his car and rode off on his own little adventure. But we see him unwrap the K-bar, and I just felt that was like too clean, and it was too easy. And so we talked about it, and we thought about it, and we had the Eclipse footage. It wasn't necessarily intended that way, but in editing it, we then developed the idea of like, okay, well, that scene also, I'm still on the fence about taking out, because it's a good scene. I like that it kind of bookends the movie, because now in the beginning, Robin is beat up on the couch and Calvin is sitting there. And now at the end, Calvin's beat up on the couch and sitting there. It's the same framing, the same blocking and shots. So I like it in that regard, that it visually helps bookend the movie. But I don't know, I think we can go right from the interview to him folding laundry. However, my wife pointed out that this way we know that nobody's coming looking for Calvin. Vince kind of makes it clear that the story around town is Robin and Carl took themselves out, so nobody's gonna come looking for Calvin. He's away scot-free. So that's why it's got a reprieve of sentence, but it might get chopped one day.
Yeah, I did kind of like it, because I was thinking he might open it later and suddenly realize that his buddy was kind of in on it or something. So it basically left me thinking that there was more that went on in the story after,
Yeah, and there's always more that goes on in the story. There's always backstory, and you kind of have to create that and develop it as a writer, but then it doesn't necessarily have a place in the story you're telling. Like the relationship between Isabel and Robin, you know, there's backstory there, but you just see what you need to see for the story from Calvin's point of view. So,
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Carl's car. Where'd you get that from?
So that was another last minute thing. I had the 66 Mustang in mind the entire time I was writing the script, but I didn't put it in there. Like if you read the script, it doesn't say 66 beat up 66 Mustang. It just says Carl's car. But I wanted that car because it's badass and it has a lot of balls. And so the 66. I was on a quest for like the entire time from I finished writing it for the 6 weeks of pre-production we had with rehearsals and securing locations and everything. I was on Craigslist like every day looking at cars. I was talking to anybody and everybody who might be a car person. And funny enough, it was rehearsal the week before we were filming, and Eric Moyer comes in and I'm telling everybody about how, you know, I need this Mustang, guys. I need a car for Carl. He's like, oh, well, I have a 66 Mustang. And it's like he dropped an anvil on my nuts. You know, like I just felt all the fucking energy come out of me. Like, oh, why did you do this? Because I had talked to him about it prior when I was talking about the character. But he's like, oh, I got an 85 Mustang. That's good. But the 66 was actually in storage, so that's why it probably went over his head. So he dug it out of storage, got it tuned up, and then he brought it over, and it's like, it's very good condition. And I negotiated pouring mud all over it and letting it dry and dressing it. So like, the tailing sequence was the first stuff we shot with the Mustang driving around. And 9 a.m. that morning, I'm going to a construction site across the street from my house, filling a bucket with mud, and then just pouring it all over and rolling it on the sides to give it that splatter effect. So we dressed it that morning and then went and filmed. If you watch it again, the scene where Carl is taking Calvin to the park and the camera's like in the back seat, you can see the hood is spotless, shiny and clean. It really kind of kills me when I share that with you because it's fine. So yeah, we filmed that fun gun scene in my driveway because one of the guns was actually real, and one of them was actually a replica. So for safety's sake and not running around town with weapons, all the weapons were real, by the way. The knife was real too. So safety first. Questions?
So at the end, when he burns the picture, I was waiting to see if that other girl's body was buried there too.
Oh.
You know, I was kind of.
Yeah, no, the other girl, I mean, it's not his chair, not his problem. He just
Yeah.
out the door. You know, and because it's all self-contained with Carl being there, it just works. So,
And what was in the box?
what's in the box? Yeah, so the box, there was a little bit more dialogue that got trimmed out for pacing and time, but what was actually in the box was a pair of ears.
He did say the word pear.
Yeah, so he said the word
I wasn't
pair,
thinking
and
ears,
then Carl, yeah, I know. Carl writes, I hope you heard me the other day, just to make sure I was totally clear. So it was playing up that it's actually a pair of ears.
I knew it was a body person.
Yeah.
Who did the rip and lead at the end?
That's my buddy Jared Drace. He is an excellent musician. I've known him for a long time. He's in 2 bands in the city, and both of them appear in the on the soundtrack. Uncrossing, which is a female-fronted band. Those songs are always played in the apartment with the girls. And then his other band, Activator, which is more of a hardcore band, but they play the that soft music that he's folding laundry to. So I just, you know, Louise and I, we did the song, and then I texted Jared. I was like, hey, you want to play lead on this? And he's like, well, I don't know, you know, what time, when you need it by. I was like, well, I'd like it, you know, yesterday. And he's like, well, I don't know if I could do that. My guitar's in the practice studio. So I was like, well, you know what? I'm willing to wait for greatness. So go get it, and then I'll send it to you, and we'll make it work. So he sent me 3, and we kind of put 2 of them together to make a better ripping jam. So yeah, that's Jared Drace. He's awesome.
Cool.
It's great, man. Well done.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Very cool.
Yeah, good job.
And if you got the weekend ticket, we're playing again on Saturday and Sunday, so you can look for all those little nuggets I gave you. And otherwise, yeah, the raffle is ongoing, and I think that's it. So thank you all for coming.
Cool.
Sticking around.
All right.